Hello there, my friends, and welcome. I'm Katie in the Nest, and it is time for a check-in on our first project of 2026, our collaboration, which is you and me, and however any other many people there are out there, as we either watch or jump on board the creation of the Hope Tote or the Tote of Hope, whichever. I, I love how people are referring to it both times because I alternate. The main thing is that we are making something with purpose. And for me, it's representing an ongoing story, a message of hope, a way to perhaps take one of our projects more out of the house than we usually do, and also just to be inspired by each other's making. So that's why we're doing a tote of hope. And I've lost track of the weeks, but I sort of wanted to say that there's this week I'm going to suggest a prompt, and of course it's always absolutely, what's that word, voluntarily. And speaking of that, I better, let's just pause. How are you going? If you're doing a tote of hope or a hope tote, I hope you are going okay. Remember, it's meant to be fun. Please don't feel you're behind, or if you're underway or waiting on something. It's just remember the joy of being together. So, what was I saying? I was saying that I've got a suggestion here today, and then next week there'll be one more, and that will be the last for the month. Now, I realize because I sort of started talking on the 1st of January and then the 3rd of January, there's also a fifth Wednesday. So, in a way, this is the longest month for us to be on a project. So I'm going to reserve that last one. Could it be the 27th or something like that? That or the last week for finishing off the side, so that you have enough to do. So with that, I wanted to give you a quick update on where I'm up to. We started with the concept of one side, and I have stuck with this one side. I have to stop myself because I get on a roll and then I stop and go on to another project. I haven't yet put down the word of hope there because I've been listening to your suggestions about different colors, and I've decided that we probably need to get the layers down, probably covering the side before I go on with some of my next week's prompt, put it that way. And of course, you can do things in any way you want. We just want to get by the end of February, we want this mostly to be done. Okay, so what have I done? I've concentrated this week on adding layers and covering the linen. I had bare blanket down there for most of the week. I've made quite a few decisions and had my scissors out. I think last week I spoke to you about finding this thrifted top. I've reduced the size of that and tried to make it sort of more like a flower with a frill. Of course, it's not a flower as such, but you know, in an abstract mind. I have been working on covering most of the bottom, and this piece of linen was there, and then I've gradually, this is a piece of sari, and I realized that I had my Cantha blanket that I brought home from India. I just better check where the middle is, and I hadn't used any of that, and with my sense of global, and you know, I'll be taking this all over the place. I thought I'd like to, you know, represent where I've been recently. So I have, just if you need some ideas, it doesn't matter to me what the weight of the covering material is. So if you've got canvas or calico, and it's all still bare, I had blanket, so I've just put layers down, and when I couldn't help myself, I had a piece of fabric on under there that was too orange. Never can be too, and I might harvest that to reveal that orange bit. In fact, I will. So this is, you know, part of the process, and sometimes you might be looking at your work and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't, you know, it's not there yet. That's why we're allowing a month for a side, and it doesn't have to take that long, but in collage fashion, it, you know, you can be pruning and adjusting and adding and covering up all along the way. So I've got the sari there, and then I found this beautiful piece of quilting. I didn't even realize I had this, and this has been done on a it's a different fabric, and it's still got 3 layers of quilting, but I cut the this flower out. This is a different quilt. You can see the cantha stitches, and I've made features of those, and I've used the just a plain piece down the bottom. You can see where I cut off that bit of the shirt from before, and I've just left it for the moment, and I'll come back to that area. Now you might be saying, Kate, what about last week's prompt, which I spoke to you as a flower starting with H? So, da-da-da-da, as I told you, I'm all about learning, and I shared, I can't remember when I shared that I have been experimenting with stick and stitch and making some panels, embroidered panels, and this is the one that I've done for the Hope Tote. I've got my fingers crossed that on a fair day you might be able to recognize those flowers. And as I look at it, I think, I'm not sure they look as good as I thought. There's still work to do. They're not finished. But this is me so far doing hydrangeas. I found a picture out of the book that I showed you, I think. Yeah, I photocopied it onto the stick and stitch. I haven't dissolved it yet, but it was all in pinks, and I thought I wanted to have a little bit of contrast. And last week I showed you one of my, pinky purpley hydrangeas. My husband said, Kate, do you realize that last week you called it hibiscus? And I said, well, I did, but it starts with H and maybe people didn't notice. It doesn't matter. But so that one's there, and you might remember my delight that the sunflower, and I said I'd remember the right name of it, also starts with H, the proper name. I've forgotten, but I've got one of that, favorite fabric of mine from the sewing basket, and I've started to embroider that. So what other things have I added? I wanted to brighten it up and really start to enhance colors that to me represent happiness, which starts with H. Hope. We want to be positive and joyful, and remember, your color scheme can be completely different. It's about being you. But for me, I've consciously, now that I've got base layers down, you can see I'm starting to embellish and embroider, so still lots of fun to be had, and that's why I like a project like this. You don't get bored, you can add bits. So that fabric over the top is this beautiful piece of cross stitch vintage fabric, and just looking at that makes me smile, and I think she's sort of settled really quite nicely in that corner. I had that flower sitting all by herself. I started to embroider, but it's insipid, so I'm going to do something else over the top. In the meantime, I added that little bit of vintage sheeting, and a hint is that sometimes we get tempted to, I don't know, sometimes I put too big a piece on and I think that doesn't work. But if you find a gap and try the same fabric, you'll go, oh, that is perfect there in the garden. So we're building the garden along here. These aren't hyacinths, but I like to think that they're sort of. So I've coloured them in blue. I think that's the only the second. Have I ever done blue? I'm not sure that I have, but there we are, a little bit of blue embroidery. This was just beige under there, so I put a little, I've started to add these frills and layers that I personally love. So that's like a 3D flower petal, working on this flower, which was a bud, and that'll grow out, as I said. Hydrangeas, bits and pieces. I'm changing the colour, and I think it was Mary that noticed that. Yeah, if it's a grey flower, you know, you don't have to stick with the flowers. It sort of does your head in. Okay, so that's sort of where she is now. Lots of things still to be done. Okay, so time for some suggestions for this week. You may not need it, but I've got two. And the first one is hidden. Now you might say, Kate, why are we hiding hope? But sometimes hope is deep inside of us, and we need to carry and preserve that flame of hope. So I was inspired, if I go back to, this is the big sister tote. I adore having this pocket here, and even more, I love pulling something out of it, which is beautiful in itself. So we can call it a pocket, but I don't necessarily think we need to be as literal as that. I'm thinking that there might be a sense of curiosity or adventure that creates a layer that is hidden and then revealed. So that's the perfect situation. So what does that look like? I haven't decided what I'm doing. I just thought I'd talk it through with you. I've got two ideas. One is, and if you know, we are going to have words and stories and messages on this, and so that's coming up. When I was sewing this down, I realized that I have just accidentally made a pocket there. So if I left that like that, or left it like there, I have a hidden compartment that could have a message in it, or of course it could be practical and I could carry something with me for my stitching. So I'll just put Sarah's little bag in there, and I could have a bow out, so it doesn't have to be completely hidden, but it's just adding layers, bulk. In fact, a bow would be great, a long bow. Yeah, so just something like that. So in a way, maybe the easiest thing to be hidden is a pocket, and then later on you can decide what goes in that. So for the moment, I'm going to keep that open. So that's why I haven't put that down. Now you might say, well, why don't you move it over, and you don't have to move that. I'm trying to cover the blanket at the same time and to weave in with the garden. So this is a giant flower, which I think I will embroider or enhance, what's the word? Embellish. I do feel like doing some beading. I haven't tried out this fabric, but anyway, that's the thought. I've got a bare little bit here. So Sorry, I just saw that there. In fact, that could, in fact, be the lining of that little, wouldn't that be? Hi, Bron. Oh, something like that is just an idea. But it sort of attracts your eyes to that bit. So if there was something hidden in there, it increases the mystery and the curiosity and just interest. Okay, so that is one idea. I'll keep that out as a little thought. The other idea, and this is where I need on hidden, this is where I need your thoughts. I keep coming back to this piece of beautiful. It's machine stitched, but it is gorgeous. Now, if I shouldn't use but, it is just beautiful. I used that on here. This is my daily diary, and I cut all around it, but at the time I was thinking about layering it all over the top. So because I had missed out on doing that, I picked this up and thought, what about growing my garden with another layer? Can you see that? And then having something within it. So I could use any of these pieces, or just pick a small one and put it right there, and then have a message. I could have a card, or where is it? I've moved everything. That's why as usual. Where are all my words? No, I can't find them. I can't find my small heart either. Putting something in behind it. So it could be that we end up, if we have spare time, we make something, but probably not as big as that, to go in there. Or, so let's just, I don't know whether I'm making sense. So I can see, now I hesitated, you know, I could have said happy, but I'm using hidden because I do think it's the layers and the complexity as well as the practicality. So if I put that over there, again, you can't really see the netting, but it would hold something. Oh, I can't find my words, but a little tiny scroll, or words about hope, a message, a quote, etc. So that's one idea. The other one is to use this bigger flower. I'm going to cut her too. And layer her over the top. Now, this is beautiful cross stitch, and I don't want to obscure it, but the colour could sort of be enhanced a little like that, so I don't lose all the pieces, but I have the garden in front of me. I'm just looking at Is there too much green? This is smaller, and I could make it heart-shaped. That is the other thing I wanted to tell you. I can't find my small heart unless I'm carrying it around in here. No, I've got the big heart. But if you wanted and you haven't put your heart on yet, you could make your heart your hidden pocket, you know, and you can put the message inside. So that's another idea. So 2 choices so far. That in the middle, or that sort of like that. I'm just going to put that there for the moment with a pin. So I can judge whether that's too much green in the garden. You can never have too much green, but it is layering up. I hope you can see that. This will need, it will need depth added to it. All right, so one more thing. This flower, nope. This flower I cut off out of this piece of quilt. Remember, you can always don't throw anything away, but I see the potential in that rough shape. So I've got some of these colors that I will probably save to put on another side to bring sort of unity to it. But the other end of this fabric, when I cut it, I was sneaky and I did some stitching in bed this morning. That's why everything's a bit messy. Here it is. Okay, this is the other flower. So I have another one for the other side, should I wish to use it. But look what I found on the other side of it. These sort of hand-drawn, hand-dyed bits, and I worked out, well, I think they sort of look like hearts. So I wanted to do it on the spot, but I thought I'd wait for you. Just realised the clouds have come over. I'm hoping this isn't too dark. How's this? For a bonus way of getting a heart. This is of the vintage Cantha that I brought home with me from India. But look at that. It's a little bumpy there, but that also could be the holder of hope, or it could go somewhere up here and be a hidden pocket. And sort of, I want it sort of to talk to that H, so maybe even over here. And you might be saying, but Kate, that'll cover up something. That's okay, because I've still got, I shared that material. How about I put that heart there? So the first heart I'm pinning is not actually the heart that I made. Oh, that feels like a pin without a head on it. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so I digress. So something hidden through a pocket, underneath something that you might know about and no one else is knowing about. Or the other thing, and it doesn't sound like an H, is an heirloom. Because when we think about it, an heirloom is something that has been passed down and represents hope, I think. you know, like, and when, if you have something on here that is very vintage or very old, and the conversation comes up, you can say, I got this from my mother, my grandfather, you know, I found this in a store, etc., etc. So it becomes a story as well. So heirloom, Heirloom. So I came down here and started going through my vintage bits, and I thought, okay, Kate, you've got a few minutes. What would you consider an heirloom? I would consider this beautiful lacy collar, the yoke. It has to have been a child's, maybe, or maybe not. But look at that. I think I could quite easily find a place for something beautiful like that. Maybe not exactly that one and shape, but I still have opportunity to add that somewhere. But if I didn't want to use that, but mind you, I haven't got any trim or frill or anything, so I am playing with the idea of using that as a frill at the top and letting it hang down. What do you think? Some vintage lace as an heirloom. Maybe I'll do all of them. I'll do both. No rules. And then that would come along over the top as a frill. So there's that. I also found, believe it or not, this. It's a heart crocheted. This reminds me of I was talking to my mum, and you might remember I gave her a heart for her birthday, and she's put a ribbon on it, and she said she keeps moving it around her room so she can see it. So today it's on her wardrobe door, so she can see it from her bed. And she said, oh, I just see the swan. And I said, and do you see the little lady? And she said, yeah, my mind just goes off. And before we knew it, we were reciting Mary, Mary, quite contrary. Anyway, that's a digression as well. I love this. I see that as a dangle. Could be a pincushion on the road. The only thing that's stopping me, you'd probably say, is the blue. But because I've got blue in there, it may end up on another side. But you might have a little piece. I've still got this one and the birdie. Heirloom types of pieces. And on top of that, I was thinking an heirloom could be a treasure. So hang on before I do that, I haven't stitched, but I will come back with the stitching. We'll probably do some stitching. Where's my bag on? This big sister has got this green bug. You might remember me getting these last year, and I adore it, and that's a conversation starter because I love that people look and go, oh, and look at that. So I was sort of thinking that if I look at this, I've also got this crochet that is not put down this basket, and that could be hidden. Okay, something in there. So messages. Remember, our bag's going to tell a big story. So let's see what I've got in here. You've seen this before. I don't think so necessarily, but brooches, oh, I've got it caught. Brooches are my favorite way of adding age and weight and personality, and you can move them around. This one, not necessarily an heirloom, but it might be that your dog, or something that you love, but he or she could go quite easily on there. What else have I got in here? I've got another insect. I mean, I'm thinking Hope. It might get mixed up. I absolutely love these earrings, vintage ones. Haven't used them, but they've got a swan. Is it a swan or a bird? Actually a piece. I don't know if it's a piece, but look at that. With earrings, they're so easy. You can just stick them through. And we don't have to do that exactly now. We can take our time. What else have I got in here? This beautiful silver. It's like a clip. Could put that up there. That makes me happy and gives me hope. Something like that. Oh, there's a cute little ladybird. That one actually matches quite well, doesn't she? You've seen this one before. Oh, and this one. Oh, did I show you that at the beginning? You know what I mean. An heirloom. Oh, Elizabeth. I mean, I wouldn't use the blue necessarily, but yeah. All these things that I usually put on treasure nests, etc. Okay, so heirloom. Heirloom or hidden. I don't want to cover up that yellow flower. I would have to, actually it's not the end of the world. So about a third, there's halfway. So let's pin that there, because that lace just needs to be out and about. And I'll leave that hanging, because that will probably become part of the next side. So I've got a little bit of lace, and I've got this down here to be hidden. And do you know, I'm just going to commit to this. The whole time I have been thinking about hidden, it's been this piece. But it's just that, all that green, when I love the yellow underneath it. But I could bit. Okay, let's do a harvest. And we're going to make a funny shaped pocket or holder of special things. Just neaten this up. So when it's sort of, not to obscure the flowers underneath, but to go across, I think. And then I've sort of got the three flowers there. I've used up so many pins. Did you see that lovely flower? Oh my gosh. I'm deliberately not going out of the house very much, because I go back to my day job, a different day job, on Friday. And I'll have to travel by car quite a bit, and it's like, I know I'm going to have to do that, so I'm just relishing. This is different to my workshops. I don't see them as work because they're just joy, joy, joy. Okay, now we could hide the stitching, but let's sort of highlight it. Let's do some yellow here. I shouldn't have to, oh, there's a pin there. Now I know for some of you, this might be all new, and please know that you don't have to go to all these levels and layers. And if you feel like you've done enough and you love the look of your bag now, it doesn't matter that Kate is still going, because someone asked me the other day, they said, how will you know when something's finished? And I said, that's a dangerous question, because I think I will always look at things and go, oh, there's a space there. I'm a maximalist, is that right? How they call it? So I'm just putting it down with running stitch at this point. And if you didn't know about the KiN before this, can I tell you that this week we have passed 2,500 members of our Facebook group. 2,500 of you. That is absolutely incredible. And I love that you can go on anytime and you can see the works of others, and it's what I love about, if I do say it myself, it is not confined to the project. It is just open, show your thrifting, other projects, things that you love, stories to tell. Oh, it sounds like play school. Just a spot for community. And I'm so proud that someone always comments on someone else's work, and that is kindness and support. It's just a beautiful thing to do. So that's becoming like a long line. That's a new experience that on netting. I thought I'd do a little border, but what it will do is gather up a little bit. Gather it a bit more on this side, so it sticks out a bit more. Yep. Can take that out there. So it's like a little bulbous flower. Turn her around. Oh my gosh. I've got a swan. In the collection. Oh, just realised I probably shouldn't stay on too long. My husband's about to fly on a plane. to come home. He's just been away for the day. And that's why I was up early and to wave him off. And then I thought, I don't actually have to do anything. Why don't I get my Hope Tote and work on it while watching YouTube? So that's how I got to really enjoy Wednesday. Now, I'm down under the flower. I mean, it's so invisible that you can't. I'll take that pretend pin out. Go down here. So you can still see the floral fabric underneath, but I hadn't embroidered that, so it's just part of the layers. And that's personally why I don't finish all my flowers before I know that everything's down, because I don't want to put, you know, days and days of work, because that's how long it takes me to do proper embroidery, and then decide that I can't live with it and I need to, you know, cover it or add something in. All right, there we go. There's our little hidden pocket. And I've still got some of this thread left. Hopefully you can still see this. So I just take it down, and it's variegated, so it's going to just start adding some texture onto this linen flower down here underneath. You can see that there's some multicolored things, so we'll do like a satin stitchy thing there. Still got thread. Do some more, and then just a cantha down the side. Now we'll go over. Join this pink, yellow up here. It's been so lovely to embroider on this sari silk. And thank you to, again, I keep having lovely messages from people that have saved their bits or have used them, and it's just lovely to know that a piece of India came home with me and now is scattered again all over the world, to Spain, to Canada, all over the US, the UK, New Zealand, Australia, Tasmania, Western Australia, Queensland. Don't think we had Northern Territory, which is totally fine. Okay, and there was South Australia, so everyone, and Victoria mustn't let all the, oh, there's thunder. Okay, my friends, there is an update on my Tote of Hope. My suggestion, if you so wish, is this week to think about adding an element of surprise, something hidden that will hold. In fact, I should have said hold is a word that starts with H. So make something to hold something else. So I've got that one. I keep going back to there because I like it, but I just need to do something with that edge there. And down here, I have got the little bit. I will chop that there because the spot is a bit random, and I like that just peeping out there. And then we've got the idea of heirloom That's my lace up there. Or something physical. That's where my hope message is going to be. Do we like a ladybird? No, I think it's too similar to my other one. It's gorgeous, but somewhere else. I think I might just leave this sort of hiding in the garden for the moment, hidden. So people who don't know what we're talking about might see that and be curious. So there we go. Keep heading, keep spreading hope and joy. Please take care. Be well. Thank you for joining me and watching. Whether you're doing it or not, I appreciate your company, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.